Hello, my lovely listeners. I'm Dr Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr Lucy Burns. Welcome to this episode of Real Health and Weight Loss. Good morning, Dr Mary. How are you this week?
Hi, Dr Lucy. Look, I'm okay today, but yesterday I felt a little bit rough.
Do tell.
Yes. Oh, look, this is a bit raw, but I think that it is a really helpful thing to share. So 2 days ago, I ate the ice cream. I ate the ice cream when I hadn't planned to eat the ice cream, and I thought it could be useful to share this experience to let our listeners know that, look, we are not perfect, that slip-ups do happen, and importantly, how slip-ups and lapses can be navigated. So this is personal, but I do feel comfortable sharing it with everyone because I reckon it will be relatable, but also hopefully helpful.
Tell us more, Mares. What happened?
All right, so I'd had a full day at the clinic at work, and it was a slightly stressful afternoon. I remember because there weren't many doctors on, and all of my what would normally be little breaks and catch-ups scheduled throughout my day were full up with patients, and there was lots to do. So I ended the day a bit frazzled and a bit depleted. And I came home in this slightly frazzled and depleted state, and I said to my beautiful partner, who was already cooking dinner, I said, look, let's get out of here. Let's take the dogs to the beach. Let's go for a walk, and then let's go to Fisho's. And Fisho's is a wonderful restaurant in Torquay that sells healthy seafood. And he was like, yep, awesome. So he put the dinner that he had cooked in the fridge and we went out. And so far, so good. This was all very healthy, adaptive behaviour to cope with stress. I was really kicking goals. We took the dogs to the beach. We had a beautiful walk. We had fun. We laughed at our daughter playing in the water. And then we went to this restaurant, Fisho's, which sells standard fish and chips as well as really high quality, like healthy seafood and salad and vegetable meals. And they also sell sugar-free switchel, which I absolutely love. So we had this lovely healthy meal and it was all good. And then my daughter said, can we go out for gelati? And I said, yeah, sure. Because, she's a metabolically flexible young child, and we do go out for ice cream very rarely, like probably, 12 times a year, maybe once a month. So we went to our favourite gelati parlour. And then when I was there, I walked in just not going to have the ice cream. That was my plan. I wasn't going to. And I know that ice cream parlours are a really triggering place for me because I am a recovered sugar addict, and ice cream was my sugary drug of choice. And just seeing all that visual stimulation of all the different flavours just hitting my eyeballs and me thinking about, oh, I haven't tried that flavour, it's probably delicious. Oh, look at that. Oh, I had that once, that was amazing. And all the bright colours. It's a lot of stimulus for me. And normally I just deal with that. I understand that my fear of missing out is a normal human emotion and I can just kind of cope with it. But I didn't that day. And I had this sense of panic came over me as she's picking out her ice cream. And then just before we're about to leave, I say, oh, okay, yep, I'll have a cup with salted caramel and chocolate, please. And I got 2 scoops of this delicious gelati and we went outside. And I didn't plan to, but I just did. And so we sit outside eating our ice cream. My partner got one too. And it was, it was sweet and it was tasty. And I was there, I was eating it. As I was eating it, I was like, what are you doing, Mary? This is not in line with your goals. Sugar is not good for you. It's not good for my body. It's not good for my brain. And I was still there eating it. And after a few spoonfuls, I managed to stop and just take a breath and decided to get back on track. I decided, okay, this happened. It's fine. I've had some ice cream and I stopped. I had only eaten, a third of it, and I threw it in the bin. And I felt good about that. The fact that, at every bite, at every single bite, you can choose to get back on track. One little slip up does not need to derail you. You can choose at every bite, at every meal. So I did that and put it in the bin and was just sort of processing this at home. I didn't hate myself. I didn't berate myself. I didn't think that I was, stupid or hopeless or any of those things. I just figured that, I was human and I had this little lapse, which, I was able to kind of laugh at myself a little bit, to be honest. And it was fine. But yesterday, so this happened 2 days ago, I woke up feeling pretty crappy. I felt hungover. And I don't drink alcohol, it just doesn't agree with me. But I do remember what it feels like to be hungover, especially back from my roaring 20s. And I felt a little hungover and just gross. And also, I woke up fluffy. I was craving carbs all bloody day. And it was uncomfy and I didn't like it. But I managed to sit with it. And I'm pleased to say that I'm pretty sure Fluffy is back asleep right now. In my mind, I feel fine today. I feel perfectly comfortable, perfectly at peace with myself and no longer carb craving. And Lucy, you do this better than anyone. I would like you to please introduce Fluffy.
Oh, Maz, I so relate to you. And it's interesting, isn't it? The stories our brain will offer us in order to get its drug food. And you can have this little battle in your head, and you're right. I mean, this is why ice cream in ice cream shops is now presented in those beautiful tubs with all the sort of little toppings on top. It is made so that we really do, have this FOMO about it, that it looks so amazing. It's marketing genius. And for anybody out there who's thinking, oh, well, big deal, she's allowed to have ice cream. Of course, you are allowed to do whatever you like. You are in charge of you. You are the boss of you. But for people like Mary and I, as sugar addicts, we know that eating a small amount of sugar can derail us for many weeks to months. And so we have to be really careful. Now, the analogy that I like to use is taken from Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling has described a three-headed dog that is guarding the Chamber of Secrets. So if you've all watched one of those movies, you may recall he's this giant, slobbering, three-headed, hairy dog. Not super attractive. Sound asleep to the tune of this lovely flute that magically plays all the time. So I like to imagine we all have a Fluffy inside, and ours will be sound asleep if we keep our carbs low. So for me, it is really low. It's about 25 grams a day. If I have more than that, even if it's not sweet things like ice cream, I can still start getting cravings. So what happens is you have maybe something, an ice cream, or it may be chips, or it may be, even rice, for example. It will wake up one head of Fluffy. And that means that the cupboards that are normally quiet in my house start calling my name. And I start mooching around looking for them, looking for what might be inside. So that'll be like one head of Fluffy waking up looking for carbs. And if I then indulge that head, the second head wakes up, and then the third, and then I've got this complete out of control carb craving maniac dog inside that I have to really work very hard at quietening down. So for me, there's two things that will always happen in my head. When my brain starts saying to me, one little bit won't hurt, just have one, you deserve it. That's what it often says, you deserve it. I try and imagine that what I'm going to do is wake up Fluffy. And therefore, it is easier for me to keep him asleep than wrangle a three-headed dog, particularly if I only have one lead. So that's the sort of technique, because what our brain will often do is that it will put, the reward of not eating the thing is in the distance, that reward of good health or losing weight or fitting into your jeans, whatever it is that is your motivation, it's in the future. So we know that if you eat ice cream or chocolate right at that moment, nothing's going to change. You're not going to suddenly burst out of your jeans in 1 second. So the reward that you're aiming for is in the future, and our brain can often justify that it will deal with it later, so that it wants the immediate thing and delays dealing with the consequences later. So you have to bring the consequences forward. And so for me, I know the consequences are waking up fluffy and dealing with carb cravings, which I find extremely unpleasant.
They are unpleasant, and that's where I was living all day yesterday. Fortunately, there isn't, I was really carb craving, feeling hungover from ice cream and also craving carbs, but there wasn't really much in the house. There's certainly, fruit and potatoes and sweet potatoes and that sort of food in our house that my daughter and partner eat, but no hyper palatable, super tempting food, which certainly was helpful as I just sat with the discomfort yesterday and tried to get Fluffy back to sleep. But I love this analogy that we all have this three-headed monster inside our head, and if we keep our carbs low, the three-headed monster is nice and calm and asleep, but just a little bit of carbs can wake up one head, which is what happened to me 2 days ago. It was sniffing around and just started all day the next day. This one head was sniffing around trying to find some more carbs. And if I ate more carbs, then the second head would have woken up. And if I ate more, then third. And then I would have had an absolute carb-craving maniac, three-headed dog monster inside my brain screaming at me to eat more and more carbs. So I am glad I woke up Fluffy, but I managed to put Fluffy back to sleep.
And I think that what a lot of people do if they've had a slip, and particularly if you ate maybe a scoop of ice cream, but for some people they'll have more because their brain goes, oh, well, you've buggered it up now. You might as well eat the chips and the chocolate and whatever else is in the house. And then they feel so guilty that they'll go, right, well, I'm going to fast tomorrow. And that the fasting becomes like a punishment for overeating the day before. And in fact, what we really, really try and help people with is this, compassionate approach that, yes, maybe you ate things that you weren't on your plan. Maybe you made a mistake. Maybe you have some regrets. What's done is done. And the way to put Fluffy back to sleep is not to further punish your body by fasting, and particularly understanding it's going to be very hard with carb cravings, but actually going back to eating 2 or 3 really good meals with some high fat in them to avoid any hunger. Again, giving your brain that, you're not giving it any opportunity to say, well, I'm actually hungry now and the only thing that's available are these 10 Kingston biscuits.
Absolutely. It is not good to use fasting as a punishment or some kind of, punitive treatment. And whenever I have a slip up or a lapse, either planned or unplanned, so certainly 2 days ago that was unplanned. I just, in that moment, believed the stories in my head and believed that I couldn't miss out on the ice cream, and so I got the ice cream. But sometimes I'd have planned episodes of going off plan, and I always use this example. It was like 2 years ago now, but it's just a good example. At my brother's wedding, I ate the wedding cake and the ice cream, and I knew that I was going to do that. I went into that day planning to be off plan just for that day. In that way, I wasn't going to drink all the beer and eat all the crackers and all those other things, but I was going to partake of the cake and ice cream. That's what I decided to do. And I knew that by going off plan and eating the sugary foods, I was going to wake up Fluffy. I was going to have carb cravings. I was going to feel a little bit off. And so I just made sure that I also planned in that kind of the recovery, the getting back on plan, to make sure that I had lots of healthy low-carb meals ready and available. So that is the day where I will eat breakfast. I will have, eggs and cheese for breakfast, or, bacon and eggs, or a nice, delicious low-carb breakfast. And I will eat lunch and I will eat dinner. And I will just make sure that I keep myself lovely, full and satisfied with delicious, healthy, low-carb food. And that will help quieten the carbs and help my body get back on track faster.
Absolutely. We are all human. There are times where we make decisions that we wished we hadn't. And there are times where we make decisions that we know may not always be helpful for us. But the key is giving yourselves compassion and kindness and making sure you have a follow-up plan.
Absolutely. You can always recommit and recommit and recommit as often as you need. And you don't need to be perfect. Being perfect is not the point. The point is that we progress and we keep going, and that if we get off track, we just get back on track. With every moment, with every bite, we can choose to get back on track.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Mary, I think that's probably it from me. Have you got any last words of wisdom for our listeners?
Just one of our favourite mantras: progress, not perfection.
Terrific. All right, lovely listeners, we will see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
So, my lovely listeners, that ends this episode of Real Health and Weight Loss. I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
And I'm Dr. Mary Barson. We're from Real Life Medicine. To contact us, please visit rlmedicine.com.
And until next time, thanks for listening.